Shams Charania of The Athletic reporting midway through, I want to say the third quarter, just out of nowhere, that the Miami Heat and Victor Oladipo Oladipo plans on making his return this upcoming Monday at home in Miami at FTX Arena against the Houston Rockets. So that is the proposed day that Victor Oladipo will be making his return after a long absence since last season, after having just played 4 games, after having surgery to repair a longstanding injury, working his way back after stints with Sioux Falls to kind of get his conditioning back. He'll be making his return and adding to this team that's already atop of the Eastern Conference. Wes, what great news.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of funny. Victor Oladipo sitting on the sideline in a pink hoodie, and all of a sudden we get the Shams report that he's going to be playing on Monday. And it was the game that you and I had circled on our calendars. We were looking ahead and we were like, yeah, this Houston game makes a lot of sense. Not just because like Oladipo got traded from Houston to Miami. There's like no ill will there. I think it's just literally a coincidence, but it just made sense. This is the right home game. Come back from Milwaukee, come back from Brooklyn. He has had a couple of stints in Sioux Falls doing 5-on-5 scrimmages. He meets the Heat back on from Sioux Falls, meets them during this road trip. And before this game in Brooklyn was going through some scrimmages. There's video out there of him dunking and going through all these things. And you got to think, hey, they got the reports from their coaching staff in Sioux Falls. Victor Oladipo looks really good. George Sedano on the Low Post this week saying that he's heard that he looks incredible and all of these things. And that's probably what was being relayed to the Heat coaching staff. They call him back to the team during this road trip. They put him through a vigorous workout, according to Ira Winderman of the Sun Sentinel, right before the Brooklyn Nets game. You got to think that was probably the final thing that they needed to see. They got the reports from Sioux Falls. They see him in person right before this Brooklyn Nets game, and they say, you know what? This dude is ready. This is what we needed to see. He's gone through the proper process, the proper protocols. He's gone through the right steps. We have not rushed him back, but we are ready to have him back for the final stretch run of the season. He's going to be big for this team. I'm convinced. If everything that we've heard is true, that he is looking great and he is looking fantastic, then that's just one more guy that he would have been great in tonight's game, right? Just another two-way player who can slash to the basket. Miami's been doing a lot more drive and kick stuff. Victor Oladipo is going to help them defensively, another on-ball and another really good team defender. He's also going to help them sort of on those nights, just another option where the offense stagnates and maybe he just slashes to the basket. Maybe he gets a layup. Maybe he's able to generate threes with kickouts and things like that. If he is what people say he is right now, that's a huge boost for a Heat team that, by the way, still number one in the Eastern Conference, despite last night's loss to Milwaukee. Exactly. It was a big win against the Nets to maintain that lead tonight in the Eastern Conference, and now they're getting Depot back for a really long homestand here.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic news. And we talked about the need to bring him out on the floor to see what you've got in Oladipo, to be able to incorporate.
You're good now. You're good now.
All right. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, I just wanted to make sure, to find out exactly what you've got in Oladipo. And to be able to incorporate him back onto the floor to see which lineups work best with him. Now, I want to take it a step back and look at what we did last year with Oladipo, what the Heat did with Oladipo, how they were able to incorporate him. He was probably going to come off the bench, I'd say, this year, given the strength of Miami's starting lineup, the fact that PJ Tucker is such a good, versatile defender. So he's going to be a bench player. I think we can expect his defense to be as good as ever, because that timing was there last year, even in just the 4 games he played with Miami. The anticipation, his ability to switch a number of times. I think he was a very good defender for Miami, and that's probably going to be the case this season as well. Offensively, I'm concerned.
Wait, defensively, you're absolutely right. I'm glad. The Heat are one of the best teams in the league in creating takeaways, right? 15 a game.
Yes.
Victor Oladipo, we saw, to your point, last year, really good at inserting himself into those passing lanes and all those things. Like, you can imagine that his presence is only going to help that. And that's another way. Like, that was the problem with Miami's offense last night against Milwaukee, was that they weren't generating those takeaways late and getting into transition opportunities. And Victor Oladipo, just doing that is going to help Miami's defense and its offense.
Yeah, absolutely. So offensively, can we see some of that slashing version of Oladipo? I think so. If he's back near full strength or whatever it was, if he's healthier than he was even during that 4-game stretch that he was with Miami last year, I think we're going to see a much more aggressive, athletic version of Oladipo. I think his shot's still going to be a little off. I mean, you can expect a fair amount of nerves after such a prolonged absence and things of that sort. So I wouldn't look to him to be a 3-point shooter or anything like that, but a couple of drives to the basket. He's going to take that first contact, and then he's going to kind of figure it out and say, you know what, this is okay. I can handle this. And then we'll start to see his confidence and his aggressiveness build from there. And it's just, he'll probably be at a minutes restriction. I'm trying to think now that I mentioned, I think about it. Eric Spo, has Spo ever like publicly shared anything about a minutes restriction? You see a lot of coaches in interviews say, he's going to be playing 10, 15 minutes or something like that. But I don't know that Spo's ever actually said he's going to be in a minutes restriction or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't like showing his cards to that degree. Anyway,
I don't know that he's asked about it all that much either, to be honest.
Probably.
We'll ask him about it before the Houston game. I think it's worth asking. Well, yeah, we will.
I'm sure he'll be asked.
And to your point, like Victor Oladipo, kind of north of 4 free throw attempts a game the last couple of years. Like this is something that he does, right? He gets to the line. He's a great driver. It's an underrated part of his game. He's obviously a good ball handler. His average 4 assists per game for his career, and that's with that number ticking up in the later years of his career too. An efficient shooter when he gets to the rim. The 3-point shot we'll see here and there. I want to get to this question from Justin Gonzalez, who writes in, would you guys say that Vic is a good sub for when Jimmy Butler has his cold stretches? And I don't know if look, you're not taking Jimmy Butler out at the end of the game, but maybe in the middle of the game, I could see that. You could play Jimmy a few less minutes, but I could see Oladipo being sort of the primary Jimmy Butler backup, where Tyler Herro is sort of would you consider him, I guess, the Kyle Lowry backup at this point? He kind of comes in when Lowry gets when Larry gets his rest. So
Gabe, Tyler, Caleb Martin, I think, is probably going to be the player whose minutes are impacted the most, unfortunately. And after a really good game from him, I could see his minutes being cut somewhat.
Him or Strus, right?
Yeah,
it's gonna be him or Strus, and you can even see Gabe. Like, how many minutes did Gabe play? I mean, he started, but he played 33 minutes.
33 minutes, yeah.
You could see, like, I don't know that you're taking any of them just completely out of the rotation. I guess we'll see, right? They'll work their way around. It depends on what kind of court geometry they want to work. Do they need more shooting with Strus or Caleb Martin? Do they need more ball handling with Gabe Vincent? Do they need more defense? And so you lean Caleb Martin in that instance. I don't know. It depends on what Victor Oladipo looks like, what he's giving you. Is Oladipo not hitting threes? Well, then maybe you do lean Strus. Or is he not as good defensively as you thought? Maybe you do lean Caleb. I don't know. But they'll experiment for a couple of weeks probably. We're not going to really know what the rotation is and who really is the odd man out, probably into the playoffs, maybe even the second round of the playoffs. But I could see Depot kind of inserting himself as the Jimmy Butler backup for a while. But I also think Spo's going to want to get Depot minutes with Jimmy and PJ and Kyle and Tyler and Bam. Like, I think we're going to see that 5-man unit out there too.
Yeah, to see how Kyle interacts with him specifically, I think it would be an interesting thing.
Good point.
I think this team is well built to handle these kinds of changes. Inserting a player of Oladipo's caliber could really upset a lot of teams, like the chemistry and everything else. This team feels very uniquely well built to handle incorporating a player, not just because he's been on this roster all season long, but because they knew that this was going to happen at some point, but also, again, they've shared each other's success. Andre Iguodala has made this point many times about the Heat and what he compared to the past versions of the Heat that made the NBA Finals while Andre was on the team to the Warriors teams where he made the finals and won all those championships, is that everybody on those teams was really invested in everybody else's success. And I think we see that with this team as well. Everybody's rooting for Depot. They're rooting for him to come back, to have a good, return. I know that Caleb's going to have his minutes impacted. Max is going to have Gabe, et cetera. Everybody's going to have their minutes impacted, but still to be able to be, better as a result of Oladipo, for the team to improve because of Oladipo's return helps everybody out. And I think they'll be able to handle that pretty well.